They say even the worst civilian government is better than the best military regime. A truth born not in comfort, but in the scars of those who have endured both.
Consequently, the following decisions come into immediate effect. The interim national government is hereby dissolved. The national and state assemblies are also dissolved. The state executive councils are dissolved. The brigade commanders are to take over from the governors in their states until administrators are appointed. Where there are no brigade commanders, the commissioners of police in the states are to take over. All local governments stand dissolved. The directors of personnel are to take over the administration of the local governments until administrators are appointed. The National Electoral Commission is hereby dissolved. All former secretaries to federal ministries are to hand over to their director generals until ministers are appointed. The two political parties are hereby dissolved. All processions, political meetings, and associations of any type in any part of the country are hereby banned. Any consultative committee, by whatever name called, is hereby proscribed.
And yet, across Africa today, the streets cheer when the soldiers return. Flags wave not for democracy, but for men in uniform. It begs a haunting question. Why are Africans celebrating coups? Why do the boot of general feels to many like the footstep of salvation? This is the story of how a people, shaped by history and hardship, came to embrace the iron grip of military power. To understand why so many Africans are now celebrating coups, we must journey back to where it all began. Back to a time when the continent stood at the edge of transformation. The 1950s and 60s, an era when the winds of change hallowed through Africa, tearing down the flags of empire and snapping the chains of colonial rule. Across Africa, new flags were raised. Independence, a word took in the blood of freedom fighters, and the prayers of generation, but no one won them. The freedom is only the beginning. In the euphoria of the newfound freedom, the greatest battle was yet to come, not against colonial rulers, but from within. Idealism met reality, democracy, fragile and young, corruption seeped through the marble walls of parliament, ethnic divisions once buried under foreign rule resurfaced like ghosts. And then came the generals, speaking the language of order and patriotism. They promised to save the nation and to cleanse it of greedy politicians and foreign puppets. One by one, African nations fell into the rhythm of marching boots and midnight takeover. From the Sahel to the savannah, young soldiers, often trained by colonial forces, turned their guns inward. Some saw themselves as savior, others as king reborn, but power once says, "Very let's go," willingly. Let's take example from Paul Biya, the Phantom of Cameroon. Since 1982, he has ruled from the shadows of the jungle and the palaces of Yolanda. At over 90 years, Paul Biya is not just a president, he is a myth, a whisper in the corridors of power, often absent, yet ever present, a master of silence, endurance, and survival. Not all iron rust. In Equatorial Guinea, it rules. They know him as the Iron Fist, Teodoro Obiang. He seized power in a 1979 coup and never let go. Teodoro Obiang has ruled longer than any living head of state in Africa. His reign is wrapped in shadows, power, and paranoia. At 82, he remains the unmovable pillar of Equatorial Guinea, commanding loyalty and fear. From revolutionary to a ruler, when the fighter becomes the very power he once opposed, Yoweri Museveni, once a young gorilla fighting to free Uganda from tyranny, Museveni became what he once resisted. Since 1986, he has outlasted rebels, rivals, and reformers. At nearly 80, he speaks of a legacy while holding control, as generations have grown up knowing no other leader. Military coups were often justified as necessary to restore order. But let's not forget, most military regimes become authoritarian over time. History speaks, not in whisper, but in warning, and we must listen. In Uganda, 1971, Idi Amin, a brutal military general, seized power while President Obote was away. He would go on to kill over 300,000 people in a 8 years reign of terror. Remember Sudan Omar al-Bashir that seized power in 1989 in a bloodless coup. He would stay in power for 30 years, overseeing genocide in Darfur and silencing dissent with brutal efficiency. In Burkina Faso, a different story was being written. Thomas Sankara, a young military captain, came to power in 1983 through a coup, but was unlike the rest. He cut his salary, rode a bicycle, renamed the country, and championed human rights. But even this idealism could not survive politics. In 1987, Sankara was assassinated in another coup, allegedly by his closest ally, Blaise Compaoré, who would then rule for 27 years. Military coups may unfold in different lands, under different flags, but the rhythm is familiar. Patterns repeat, and in those patterns lies hard lessons. For citizens, for government, and for the world watching, what began as a call for order often became theater of brutality. Military regime turns obsession into policy, silence into survival. Some leaders crown themselves as emperor, others fill rivers with bodies of their own people. The drum of independence has faded, replaced by the roar of command. The big question here is, why are military coups gaining popularity and why are they celebrated? In the early 2000s, African political landscape shifted. In Nigeria, 1999 ushered in democracy after decades under the gun. Ghana rose as a beacon of peaceful power handover. Kenya, Senegal, and South Africa took their turns at the ballot box. Competitive elections became the new normal. Cold wars vanished. Civil society found its voice. Democracy seemed to bloom. Yet in the shadows of this new growth, seed of discord quietly took hold. Elections, once the heartbeat of freedom, began to flutter. Once a symbol of hope, now spectacles of manipulation. Ballot boxes did not echo the will of the people, they echoed the will of those already in power. Behind closed doors, deals whispered, and corruption thrived, greasing the gears of system meant to serve the many. Democracy may have taken root, but it was democracy without delivery. When election brings only corruption, insecurity, and broken dreams, citizens stop believing. And when they stop believing, the door to dictatorship opens wide. In Mali, democracy failed to deliver peace. The ballot box became a symbol of betrayal, not hope. Coups do not succeed because soldiers are strong. They succeed because democracy is weak. But the truth is that you can't blame Africans for supporting these coups. Many young Africans have grown up under flawed democracies, with rigged elections, limited press freedom, and little transparency. Without seeing the benefit of democracy firsthand, they may not be strongly committed to preserving it. Many post-independence democracies in Africa are democracy in name only. Corruption is the order of the day. Most civilian governments lack transparency. Elections are rigged and manipulated. Ordinary citizens can't guarantee for sure if their votes count. Civilian government cling to power and will do anything to remain in power. For example, in Guinea, Alpha Conde amended the constitution to run for a third term. This triggered public outrage and eventually a military coup. When democratic system fails to deliver, people stop believing in them. Sometimes civilian leaders appear ineffective or uninterested in protecting the population. Armed insurgency, terrorism, and banditry have long overwhelmed Africans. In countries plagued by jihadist violence, like Mali and Burkina Faso, many believe that the military is better equipped to handle this crisis than weak or complicit civilian government. If coups are followed by visible military action or stabilization efforts, youth may view them as effective. When the state can't provide security, the military presents itself as the only capable institution. Africans feel betrayed by civilian elected governments that have failed to deliver basic services, tackle corruption, or improve living conditions. When civilian leaders are seen as self-serving, corrupt, or ineffective, military leaders may be seen as a cleaner alternative, and dissatisfaction is highest amongst the youth. Africa has the youngest population in the world, yet unemployment, poverty, and lack of political inclusion have annihilated many young people.
Tired of being hungry. We cannot even feed our children. One tuber of yam is 5,000. We cannot buy tomato and pepper. Pepper is 1,000. The poor cannot survive. Please, we need you to change the government.
And we are not going to stop until every Nigerian can live comfortably in Nigeria. We are not going to stop until we Nigerians living in Nigeria, enjoy similar life or a better life than even countries across the world who don't have half of the resources that we have.
Unemployment rate in many African countries remain extremely high, especially among educated youth. The rate at which Africans migrate to other countries looking for greener pasture shows a generation trying to escape rather than build at home. Usually, amid the chaos and crumbling trust in civilian rule, military leaders rise, portraying themselves not as tyrants, but as guardians of national dignity. Military takeover can represent a break from the status quo. Young people facing high unemployment, poor education, and few opportunities often see any sign of change, even if it is uncertain or risky. A coup for many youths looks like a fast and radical solution to a stagnant system. Many recent coups have been wrapped in anti-colonial, anti-French, and anti-Western rhetoric. Former colonial powers, especially France, are viewed by some as propping up corrupt regimes. Western-backed civilian governments are accused of selling out national sovereignty. In the last few years, West African and the Sahel region have seen a marked increase in military takeovers. Countries like Mali, Guinea, Chad, Sudan, Burkina Faso, and Niger have experienced coups. This trend reverses earlier democratic gains made during the 90s and the early 2000s. To help you better understand why military coups are gaining massive support, is because some military leaders have used anti-colonial and anti-Western rhetoric, especially against France, to gain popular support. They promise to reclaim national sovereignty and resources, which resonates with youths who are increasingly conscious of neocolonial structure.
Honorable delegates, heads of state, leaders of nations, distinguished representatives of peoples great and small, I greet you not as a career diplomat, nor as a man bred for banquet halls and handshakes. I do not come to you speaking the rehearsed language of polished politics. I come to you as a soldier of my people, as a guardian of a wounded land, as a son of a continent that has carried the cross of the world, yet has never worn its crown. My name is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso, and today I speak not only for the 22 million souls in my nation, but for a continent whose stories have been twisted, whose pain has been ignored, and whose dignity has been repeatedly auctioned off at the altar of foreign interests. Africa is not Tobago. Africa is not a battlefield. Africa is not your experiment, your puppet, your warehouse of raw materials. Africa is rising not to kneel, but to stand. And today I say before this great assembly of nations, Africa will not kneel, one on the false generosity of global politics. For decades you've sent us aid with one hand while extracting our lifeblood with the other. You build wells in our villages while your corporations drain our rivers. You donate vaccines yet patent the cures. You speak of climate action yet continue to fund the very forces that burn our forests and dry our lakes. What kind of generosity is this? The kind that feeds the mouth but silences the voice. The kind that keeps a man alive just enough to keep him dependent. We are not blind to this hypocrisy. Let me be clear, we are not ungrateful for sincere humanitarian assistance.
For example, in Burkina Faso and Mali, French troops were expelled after military takeovers, and Russia's support was embraced. Once it was France, and now Russia. In the eyes of many, Moscow isn't a colonizer. But let's not forget, history warns us, power rarely comes without a price tag, and behind every partnership signed in ink, there's one written in blood. Looking closely, we can observe a pattern emerge, a domino effect whipping across the continent. In this part of the world, coups don't happen in isolation, when one nation topples its government and survives the fallout. When soldiers seize power and sanctions fail to bite, a signal is sent across the borders. Military leaders in neighboring states take notice. They see not just possibility, but popularity. They see citizens cheering in the streets, flag raised for the uniform, not for the ballot. ECOWAS, the regional bloc, meant to guard democracy, has struggled to hold the line. Its warning falls flat, its red line repeatedly crossed, and so the cycle continues to feed itself. One coup breeds another, like falling domino. West Africa becomes a map of region, not elected, but installed. Stick with me while I build this analogy. It started with a signal, one successful coup that did not collapse under pressure. No military defeat, no international invasion, no real consequence. The neighboring state take notice, seeing military takeover as a quick change to a failed government. Using Mali as a case study, we can observe in 2020, Mali's civilian government fell. The military drive out the civilian government twice, and when ECOWAS imposed sanctions, the junta did not blink. They turned to Russia, they turned inward, and the people, exhausted by corruption and terrorist attack, stood behind them. Then came Burkina Faso. Same reason, same playbook. A young captain stepped in, promised security, sovereignty, and in the end of the foreign meddling, to many, he was a savior. The message echoed across the Sahel. Coups work. If you speak the language of anti-colonialism, the people might cheer, and if ECOWAS blinks, you win. In West Africa, coups are no longer shocks, they are trend, a political virus spreading from one fragile democracy to another, fueled by failed civilian government, unchecked by institutions, and framed as liberations. Why are coups popular? At least for now. Maybe it's because they promise what so many have longed for, a quick change. They ignite a fierce sense of nationalism, a rallying cry to include national sovereignty, and to defy foreign influence. They sweep away the old, the corrupt, and the hated elites, like a storm clearing out a broken system. And to many, a coup is not chaos, but a reset, a chance to start afresh when all seems lost. But let's not forget, the risks are profound. Military rule often brings uncertainty, democracy fades, freedom shrinks, and history warns us. What looks like a new dawn can quickly turn into a long night. Support for military coups among Africans often reflect a deep systematic frustration more than a genuine belief in military rule.
You see, Traoré has become a hero to Professor. I and him will drink coffee about Traoré. But he's doing two good things, that he becomes an international icon. A young guy, younger than many of us. Traoré has changed the price of uranium. France was buying uranium from Burkina Faso for $1 billion US every year. He stopped the French to buy his uranium. Today, Burkina Faso is making 85 billion from the same resource. We are selling uranium here. We have no nuclear power. We are just talking, everything is nuclear. We are just selling. Whether the Chinese are paying us the best price or not, we don't know. We are also afraid. What if they walk out of this deal? But Traoré, a young man, a soldier, has changed his country. That's why Traoré is now building up factories, processing plants of agro-processing, because he has resources. We have these resources. When we say some of these things must not be said in the open, but let's drink coffee and talk about the future of our country, we don't listen to one another. So, Foreign Minister, may your door be open for further engagement, deeper engagement in the national interest of our country, so that we start running, because we are crawling. We must start running. And this country has an opportunity to penetrate Africa, to penetrate the world, but we must run and we must talk to one another so that we get the country going. Thank you. Thank you.
It is a reaction to failed governance, inequality, and external interference, not necessarily a rejection of democracy itself. So, what now? Africa stands at a crossroad. The youth, the future, demand more than just empty promises and iron fist. They want democracy, yes, but a democracy that delivers justice, security, and opportunity. A civil society must be stronger, institutions must be resilient, and the international community must listen, not just with sanctions, but with support for genuine reform. And the people, they must never stop demanding better from their institutions. In the heart of Africa, the battle between democracy and military rule continue. Easy, remember both the victories and the tragedies. But the story is not over. The people still hold the pen, and the future awaits to be written. If this documentary sparked a reflection in you, like and subscribe for more. Comment your thoughts, why coups are getting popular, and what is the way out for Africa. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious.